Hi everybody, my name is Andrew. Today I'll present Insignary. Our company provides insight to your binary. So before we jump onto problem statement as well as solution statement, what I want to cover first is the trend that we see in open source software space. So we see a lot of increase in usage of leveraging open source software. You might wonder what the actual numbers will be like. According to Synopsys, about 60%, on average, about 60% of the code is open source software, and about 40% comes from proprietary code. And according to Gartner, that number can even go up to 90% of open source software in the code. Well, I was in Denver 2 weeks ago, and I went to this DevOps community, a meetup, and I met this engineer that's working for a mobile application startup. He told me he uses a lot of open source, and when I asked about those numbers, he said about 80 to 90% of his codes are coming from open source software. So that number was pretty shocking to me, but at the same time, what was more shocking to me and more surprised to me was that there's no governance nor any processes around how to use open source software in a proper way in his organization. And that could lead to a lot of concerns because if there's no visibility to the upper management, they could worry about how open source software is being used. Because as you know, there are a lot of known vulnerability in open source space. Last year in 2016, about more than 6,000 of new open source software vulnerabilities were discovered. This year in 2017, that number more than doubled, as more than 13,000 of newly discovered open source vulnerability risk. And if you look at 2017 only, about 24% of those 13,000 were critical or high, meaning that those are the issues that you really have to address before you produce and introduce it to your customers or to your market. So if there's no visibility and if there's no process, what can be the problem? Bam. So that's the slide that kind of sums up what the problem is for a lot of the organization. I actually saw this exact picture twice last month, once in the DC when I was at SciNet, and another time when I was in Denver attending this OWASP meeting. So this is the actual picture that a lot of those security people as well as dev people can relate to. And this seems like an increasing problem. So if there's a problem, there's got to be a solution, and that's where we come into the pictures. So our company, Insignary, we provide an application called Clarity. All we offer to our customer is a capability to scan any binary that you get either from your internal code or you get it from your vendor, from partners, or your vendors. And we let them know what open source software is used in the particular binary, as well as any of the associated known license or security vulnerability risk. And we do it through our unique technology called fingerprinting, which I'll discuss in a little more detail in the later slides. So then now you understand what we offer to our customer. You might wonder how it can be used in your environment. So for us, the key word is user-friendliness. So we offer 3 features. One is scanning, report, and also the mitigation. So as for the scan, it's really easy, simple drag and drop, where you do not require any of the training. Anybody in your organization, whether they're from salespeople or whether they're coming from engineering background, they can leverage and use this tool easily. As for the report, it's very intuitive and is in a way to identify what risk you're having without having any consultant to come in and comprehend and try to understand what the report is trying to tell you. As for the mitigation piece, we offer known vulnerability patch that can be applied to resolve the issue, so you do not have to spend extra time trying to figure out how you can resolve the issue if you found any. So you might wonder who can benefit from using this tool within your organization. We initially thought it's really the security team that can benefit from it. However, when we talk to a lot of the customers, it turns out that it's not just the security team, it's more like everybody in that ecosystem. So from that perspective, they can use our solution to identify what are the open source code that is secure for them to use and what are the open source code that is not secure for them to use. As for the security team, we can automate the process of making sure that the known vulnerability is not included without spending additional hours of manual effort to identify that. As for the operation, it's easy for them to run the process of continuous delivery and continuous integration, and also the report will come easily for them. As for the upper management, they finally get the visibility of how open source is being used and how your organization has a proper way of leveraging the open source software. So when it comes down to the deployment, there's 2 things that I want to talk about. One is implementation, other piece is integration. But the key word here is flexibility. So as for the implementation, we offer both cloud solution and also the on-prem solution. So based on the customer's need, we can offer either way of implementation. As for the integration, it will be seamless integration because we offer both container technology as well as RESTful API, so that you do not have to spend a lot of time and resources when it comes down to configuring the solution to make sure that it works well in your environment. So if you're familiar with this open source space, you might wonder how we compare to our competitors. So we're coming to the market with a new technology called fingerprinting, as I mentioned, fingerprinting. And there are two methodologies that was used before we were coming into the picture. So it was one of them was source code based, other one is hash comparison. So for the comparison reason, I lay out those three sectors that I want to talk about. One is coverage, second one is accuracy, and third one is the speed scanning. So we really outshine our competitor in two areas. One is coverage and accuracy, because we really look into the details and we are not depending on source code, we're not depending on a compiler or the CPU architectures, and you can detect any of the snippet code or modified code. When it comes to speed of scanning, it takes a little longer time for us to scan because we really go into the detail of it. However, when we talk to most of our customers, they are more concerned about the accuracy piece as well as the coverage, because they do not run this software on a daily basis. They usually run it on either bi-weekly or monthly basis based on their agile process. So we're new to the market. We actually launched our first product in April this year, so it's been only about a month. However, we have great traction on a global scale, as you can see. If you have any question, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to set up a session to discuss further. Thank you.